Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a very dangerous road that we are traveling down right now. I mean, you get the social acceptance of all this crap, but now you have potentially more dangerous stuff following too. I mean, um,
Oh yes.
let's see, what else can I think of? I mean, well, let me start with this.
Eugenics.
Let me start with this first. Um, when I make these arguments myself with other people and my own life and whatnot on like Facebook or YouTube, whatever, I always ask people the question. You guys support stuff like homosexuality and the transgender crap and whatnot, which I call it a freak show. But yet, all the time when I ask these people if they support things like polygamy, polyamory, incest, they're like, "Oh no, 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 that stuff's disgusting. That stuff's disgusting." I'm like, "Really, really?" So you have a problem, you have a big time problem with a guy who wants to screw his mom or his sister, and that's disgusting. Or a group marriage, even with polygamy or polyamory. You have a problem with that, and you think that's disgusting, but you have no problem with a guy shoving his dick up another dude's ass. Where's the logic in that?
Oh, oh, it gets even better. I would watch your comments on that incest though, because that's growing.
Yeah,
Fun fact, another fun trend to watch. People think about if you that kind of material is years ago I had a professor in college, a very wise professor who was a history professor. He was an old friend. We talked. We would talk regularly. He's a great guy. I have remained friends with him since after leaving college. And one of the points he brought up to me one day, because he knew I worked on the university paper and I was writing, etc., is that he said, always watch the adult industry. And I said, what do you mean by this? I don't understand. And he said, because trends there are reflective of shifts that take place in larger society, regardless of industry. And he used the example, I remember, of the 8-track versus the VHS. He said the 8-track was a better product and a better, it was a better product than the VHS was. It was better overall. But he said the reason why the 8-track died out and the VHS took over had nothing to do with the efficiency of it for the public. It was because the adult industry adopted the VHS instead, and that became standard for American households. I thought that was very interesting. So I've continued to follow this as a trend for years, and this has borne itself out consistently. It's been very helpful to a lot of my research. One of the big trends that I see developing in that, as regards to, like I said, social degeneracy is concerned, is exactly what you just said. Among millennials and Gen Z, having sex with your family members is becoming very quickly normalized. Very quickly. You can see it in the discussions. You can see it in the taste that people are accepting, as well as in the fact it's being promoted as well from without, but it's also what they're choosing, and the fact that of the discussions people are having. It's going to be a big trend, which is leading to a push for a reduction in the age of consent, and eventually to outright pedophilia.
yeah,
And when I say outright pedophilia, I'm talking about underage girls and boys being legally allowed to have relations. Right now, thankfully, it's still illegal. But the fact is, I would not be surprised if in 20 years it was, if not legalized, it was definitively on the way to being legalized. You can even see it now. I mean, they have these discussion threads online where they will not actually show children, but they will make extremely realistic drawings of children, and people comment by the hundreds on these threads. It's not just a few comments, it's tons of people all over the world. What does that indicate? This indicates something very big. It's a very serious issue.
Well, actually, in regards to both,
It's a revival of pagan practices.
yeah, and actually, it's interesting that you bring this up because I actually have a couple of stories to address both what we're talking about here, like pedophilia and trends. Now, I told you off screen the last time we talked that when I graduated high
Yes.
school, and this is not me getting in my my life's history, but when I was out of high school, from about 18 years old into my early 20s, I worked as a pizza delivery guy. And I've told you this before. I don't pretend to make it something that it's not. That working in a pizza parlor, it's a high school kid's job, or for college kids back home who are trying to make some spending cash. So it is what it is. I don't deny that. But the one positive thing of working a job like that and being the age that I was at the time is you get to work with a lot of teenage kids, and you get to get inside their mind a little bit and see what they're thinking. Well, I was here's the thing. I was fortunate enough to work with a couple of kids. Well, they're adults now, but they at the time they were both teenagers. It was actually a brother and a sister. They both had their heads screwed on pretty well. And if you guys are watching, hey, how you doing? I've never forgot you guys. You guys are awesome people. But the sister, she and I were talking one night during a shift, and she'll probably be surprised that I even remember the story, which she probably doesn't remember it. But she was talking about how much she loved her dog, it was her favorite pet and all that. And she made the comment, jokingly, of course, saying, "Oh, Sean, I love my dog so much. If I could marry it, I would." And I said, "Well," and I'm not going to mention names, but I'm like, "Well, so and so, give it a few years. You might literally be able to." Well, there was this other girl that I worked with at the time, very, I wouldn't say deranged, but you could tell that there was something going on here. Something wasn't right. This other girl, she had a sodomite flaming brother,
Yeah.
and then her mother decided to become a lesbian. And that's real. And I don't really know anything about this girl, just that. But when I made that comment to the other girl about her being able to marry her dog, this other girl says to me, "Well, what's that supposed to mean, Sean?" And I straight up told her. I'm like, "Well, with the mockery of marriage that the government is making right now, then I wouldn't be surprised if if they allow like bestiality type stuff going on. If they're letting two gay dudes marry, then they're leaving it wide open for a lot of other things." And she says to me, "Sean, it's not right that we talk about this stuff at work." And this girl's like 16 years old. I'm like, "Why? Well, why am I not allowed to talk about this? What's your reasoning?" She says to me, "Well, I have a brother who is gay and a mother who is now gay. So I just don't think it's really appropriate to talk about this." And I'm like, "Well, let me tell you something, kiddo. The world is full of people with opinions different than yours, and you better get used to it. And we're not all going to call your perversion normal like you think we should. But it's funny how you want me to stop talking about this, but at the same time,
Exactly.
if I was speaking in favor of it and waving a little rainbow flag, you would say, 'Oh, preach, Sean, preach.'" So it's hypocrisy. It's this is like talk with the trend stuff. It's like, if you have to be in line with that trend, or else you're not cool. You're not with it. You're old fashioned. You're backwards. And the other story with
If you're backwards, you're the one who's the problem. Blah blah blah.
and the other story with this girl's brother, and him and I, we had a good rapport with one another. Great dude. We both played. We all went to the same high schools, and he played on the football team, so that was something we had in common. Always great talking with this guy, and I say hello to him too if he's watching. You know what? I'll just send them this video, and they can watch it from this part on to let them know what I'm thinking of them. How about that? But anyway, he went to he went to the same I went to junior college for a semester, and that's all my college experience is. He went to that same junior college, and he came into work one night after a day of class, and he was telling me that he was walking in this area. I knew where he was talking about, and he told me and he swears up and down by this. He's not bullshit. He saw a grown man there making out with what looked like a 13 or 14-year-old boy. Not kidding. And granted, this could have been someone who has
Absolutely.
some they could have some condition where they look like an adolescent, but they're actually like, you know, in their 20s or something like that. Kind of like that Andy Milonakis comedian or whatever he was. But my old friend and coworker, his exact words were this when he first saw that. He goes, "What the shit?" and just hurries off because he couldn't stand it. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like,
but
dude, don't you think you should have?
You can't make this up. It's everywhere. This kind of behavior. This kind of behavior is very common. I mean, for example, like I said, it's all over the internet. It's all over society, and it's coming out now. I don't want people to get the idea that, you know, everybody says, well, why are you act so surprised? This has always existed. Well, duh. Of course we know that. I mean, there's no such thing as a new evil.
Murder has always existed too, but that doesn't make it right.
Things. The question is how it manifests. Exactly. It doesn't make it right. I mean, it's so what if it's always been with the human race? That's nice. So of a lot of things, it doesn't make it any better. I mean, we don't have a problem in terms of the nature of the issues that are taking place. What we have a problem with is the proliferation, the acceptance, and the openness about it. How it's manifesting in society. You know, of course, you're going to have people who are degenerates throughout the world. This is a fact, but it doesn't change the fact that you have, you know, all these kind of what do you call it? It doesn't change the fact that you have those, that they still exist. It's just they're more common now, and they're accepted as good and normal. That's our problem, and it's only going to get worse from what I have seen, because people accept the philosophy behind it, and there's no desire to fight it. Like I said, I just sent you an example from 4chan, one of the 4chan boards on your Facebook, showing you how popular this kind of stuff is. I just went to it right now, 4chan. This is a public board, one of the most popular boards on 4chan. I just went to it. Let's just see. This is random. It's right there. Almost 200 people within a matter of minutes have viewed and commented on a thread promoting this kind of behavior. Sodomite pedophile relationships. It's everywhere. You can't go somewhere without missing it. It's that common.
Oh, well, let me tell you.
That's why I said it's a trend to watch. You know, 1988, 87 or 88, the Gay Manifesto was published. Oh, sure, please.
Yeah, I want to hear about what you were talking about, the Gay Manifesto, but this is another perfect example of what I'm talking about with what you were just saying. Now, we obviously talked before, and I can't say that enough, so there's no secrets that people think we're just doing this on the spot right now. But you obviously know that I'm a huge fan of the University of Notre Dame, particularly the football team. And this is something that I've never talked about on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
But yeah, exactly right. If we were in the other scene, again, this is something that I've never said on my YouTube channel before, and people will probably be surprised by this. But first off, if you're not surprised about a Lutheran cheering for a Catholic university, get a load of this. I can even tell that at the University of Notre Dame that things have changed there, and that they have not changed for the good. Because people think that I just blindly support them in everything that they do. That's not the case. Notre Dame, the only university that I cheer for and support, I disagree and I despise a lot of the things that they're doing. I was with a friend of mine back in 2017. We went to the Notre Dame home opener against Temple, and he's a Catholic, strong in his faith, and we're walking. I don't know if you've ever been to the Notre Dame campus before, but the way it's set up is there's like a main quad area.
I actually haven't been.
Oh, really? I always thought that would be one of the biggest stops for you and Ted.
Yeah, I haven't been to Notre Dame yet. No, I haven't had a chance to get there yet. I've wanted to go, but I haven't had a chance to get there yet.
Well, I will say this: despite the stuff that I'm about to say, it is a very beautiful campus. The Sacred Heart of the Basilica. I've actually been to a mass there. A beautiful, beautiful church. But anyway, getting back on topic here, my buddy and I were walking in the main quad leading up to the football stadium. So the way it's set up is like there's that quad, there's like dormitories, lecture halls, and all that. I'm looking around, and I'm seeing at least a dozen sodomite rainbow flags. And I look to my buddy, who himself is a devout Catholic, and I go, "Hey man, are you seeing this right now? I mean, this is absurd." But that was just one part of it. So obviously, there's now plenty of people there that go to Notre Dame that support this heresy. The university now has a homosexual heterosexual alliance club, or whatever. I forget the exact name of it, but that's what it is. They invited pro-abortion.
Gay Straight Alliance.
Yeah,
Get it right.
I know. I should get it. I should get that right. And I'm saying that after the delay, of course. But in addition to that, they invite abortion-loving President Obama to come there, but they refuse to have Trump come, which I'm not making one more heretical than the other. I mean, I don't think Trump's worse than Obama, but you know, whatever. They obviously, you probably read the story about the students walking out of graduation because Mike Pence was there giving the graduation speech or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They all walk out. Bon Jovi's kid, he was a walk-on on the football team there. He left a tweet one time saying, "Oh, I wish I was brave enough to join my classmates in this strong display of bravery." And I actually left him a tweet one time saying, "Listen, dude, in 30 years from now when you're all grown up, you'll realize how much of a bunch of dumbasses your classmates were." So they now have flagrant disrespect, which that's never been new on any campus across America. But in addition to that, they actually invited Charles Murray, the story that I was going to tell you about earlier, or that I mentioned earlier. They invite Charles Murray to come speak on campus there. As we both know, open eugenist, racist. I didn't know that he was a homosexual though. That part was new to me. I never knew that. And now, just as I found out this last year, Notre Dame now promotes Islam. And let me explain how they're doing that. The football team has a contract with NBC. So all their home games are broadcasted on NBC Network. And it doesn't matter where you're at in the country. You could be all the way out in California, Hawaii, wherever. If you turn on NBC when Notre Dame is playing, you will get their home game. Well, at halftime of one of the home games this past season, like before they come back and get ready to start the second half, they always have this little segment where they show like Notre Dame students and alumni making a difference in the community and shit like that. They had one that was talking about modern Islam, how to be a modern Muslim. And I forget all the details of this, but they were trying to portray Islam as a good thing is what they were doing. So yeah, that university, it's still a Catholic university, but it's quickly losing its Catholic identity.
It's there's a statement, I sent it to you. It's called the Land O'Lakes Statement from 1967, and it was a lot. Notre Dame was involved in this at the center of this. It was attempting to rectify the church with statements made in Vatican II, and it far from doing any kind of actual help, it rapidly brought about the mass secularization, the promotion of a lot of degenerate ideas. Now, obviously, these trends existed before that, but the reason I bring this up is you can trace a lot of the immediate effects of the changes to this statement that was made, the Land O'Lakes Statement. In Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin, on a property that was owned. It was owned and organized by Notre Dame University. This the story of Notre Dame is very sad because you can see their devolution taking place in front of your eyes, their disintegration of that identity. And like I said, at this point, it's a den of heresy. It's an expensive den of heresy, and you know, it's like when people talk about the Notre Dame Church in France. That church is very significant, but the reason that church is so significant is for the same is not for why it should be. The priest of that church made a very interesting statement. He said to people, he said, I got the most important thing. What was that? It was the Eucharist and the tabernacle. Everything else can go. If the building itself is meant to be a testament to the faith, if Christ is not there, if Christ is not there and being proclaimed and made present, the building is just a corpse. It's a tomb. I mean, it is even said. It is said. There is a story that when the hold on one second here. I'm gonna turn this off here for a second. The screen, but I'm still here. Okay. It is said. Sorry about that. I had a bit of a delay there. It is said. I'm gonna go here to a different location, but I'm still here. I promise you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It is said that when the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was being assaulted by the Turks. Okay, good. Yeah, the video. I just gotta turn it off here for a second. I have some of my children just got home and they're very excited to see me. So I just but I know they'll run around. So I wanted to make sure I get to the path.
No, I understand, man. I understand.
What happened is it is said that the very night that they knew cool, man. Well, it said the night that the Turks were attacking, they knew the city was going to fall. There were a lot of people gathered from that. True. There was a lot. It said that they had mass, and after they had mass, a big light shined down in the church. It was like a cloud descended upon the people, and everyone did not know what was happening, and it swirled around the altar, and then it massively lifted up to heaven. And this was believed to be the departing of the Holy Spirit from the Hagia Sophia Church before the Turks came in. I mean, it's true. They came in, they turned it into a mosque, and it's still a very, big fight between, many people today. It matters a lot. But the point is, the reason why that building was so sacred was because it was a Christian place. It was a church. It was a major church, and God was worshipped there. And if Muslims come in and take it over, the presence of God leaves. It's no longer there. It's no longer needed. I don't want to be like one of these people who says, well, you don't need to have big church buildings. You just need to have Jesus. Is all that matters. The building obviously is meant to help remind us of the transcendent aspects of the faith and help us to focus our minds toward heaven. But the fact is, the building itself has no relevance without Christ. If it's not there, you might as well just crumble the whole thing like a paper and throw it away. That's the point that I'm making with it. And same with Notre Dame, the cathedral, even the university.
Yeah, I mean, if its identity is gone, then what's the point? What is that place then?
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you didn't hear?
No, I didn't hear that. I missed that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just said you're exactly right. I mean, if the identity isn't there and the holiness isn't there, then yeah, exactly. Well, what is it?
Yeah, it means absolutely nothing. You don't have anything else. All that you end up having is a dead building. And that doesn't mean anything at all. It's absolutely meaningless. It's a bunch of it's a monument to it's a tombstone.
Yeah, that actually makes the most perfect sense. I agree. That is one of the most logical points I've heard about that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. That's all that it is. So when you have people who go out and say, well, this is a great monument to our culture, to Western civilization. Okay, yeah, there are cultural aspects that one can emphasize with that, but the fact is, it's much greater than just culture. If you don't have the actual faith itself, it's just a tombstone. It's meaningless. So if you have to go beyond that. It's very important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll wait a couple seconds here for you to get set up.
Oh no, wait! I can hear you. I'm probably gonna have to keep this off here for the remainder, just because I gotta find another because of my location and everybody out there.
Gotcha.
So hold on, give me another second here.
Yeah, and just so you know, yeah, Grant, I'm still recording, so people are gonna hear this, but I think I might make this interview like a 2 or 3 parter.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. If you want to do that, that would be completely fine. I mean, however you want to break up the interview, divide it up, that's perfect with me.
Yeah, because it's crazy. Because I told people that when I interviewed Ted, that was close to 3 hours long. We're approaching that right now, and I gotta tell you, some people, and this is not to all my viewers, but it makes you wonder how big their attention span is. Because it's like a lot of people just quit. And that's kind of frustrating sometimes.
Absolutely does. A lot of them don't care. They want something easy. Yeah, they want something easy. They want something that entertains them quickly. So it doesn't work. What happens? They just bounce. So shoot. I mean, let me get back over here for a second. I'll talk about whatever with this. But the fact is, a lot of people think that the problems of society are going to get better, that things are better. I'm just being a pessimist, or I'm being not optimistic. No, the trends are set. If you look at Notre Dame, like I said, Notre Dame is a major institution. It's reflective of the state of the church in the United States. You want to hear my opinion on this? I'll give you another opinion. The Supreme Court. I think 3 or 4 of the justices are Catholic. Something like that. Maybe even more. What have they done with their faith? They haven't done anything. They've used it they haven't promoted Christian teaching. They've used it to promote bad ideas, unfortunately. They have. I can't deny it. So what does it say about the state of the church in America? It's a terrible statement on it. It's the reason why, according to a friend of mine, 60%, this was 5 years ago, of Catholics in America are baptized pagans. They do not believe in anything. I would say it's actually higher, probably about 70% now. Probably about 70%. I would not be surprised if it was that. And it's just not just Catholics. A lot of these Protestant groups too, they have the exact same problems. They have the exact same problems. It's just not per se as obvious, but it's definitely there if you look.
Oh, let me tell you something.
I talk about sexual abuse in the Catholic Church with the priests, the homosexual.
Oh, it's a damn delay. I'm sorry.
Not to be sorry about it, kid. We're making the best we can with what we got here.
Yeah, it's true. Go ahead with your story.
But, we have this issue with these homosexual priests in the Catholic Church. It's not. Oh no, I'll keep it short here. You want to talk about an issue when it comes to heterosexual abuse? Oh my gosh, the Protestant churches are insanely high. And the mainline Protestants, Lutherans, Methodists, Presbyterians, those are the lowest. You get to the evangelicals, it can go as high as 25%.
Yeah, it's not just the Catholic Church where this stuff happens. I agree.
It's a major issue.
But it's just for some reason, I don't know why exactly, but the homosexuals just seem to, like the ones that want to become priests, they just seem to edge towards the Catholic Church for whatever reason. And the Catholic Church gets the worst name. They take the brunt of the punishment. And
I'll give my analysis for this, why I think. And this also, I think, is the same case in the Orthodox Church, too. But it's not talked about. The Orthodox won't talk about it. One of the issues with what you have is, I wrote about this, you have a lot of times the support of homosexuality. Homosexuals throughout history have been used in military and spying operations. This is a known fact. They're known to be used in spying operations. And what happens is they go in because they have no morals. and they'll do whatever they're asked to do. So what'll happen is they'll go in, they'll do their thing. Then what you have in the United States post World War II, you have a lot of anti-Soviet operation. And with the anti-Soviet operations, what this involves is a lot of these operations. Sorry, I'm just having a thing here. Sorry about that. One of the things you have with a lot of these Soviet operations is they were known to recruit homosexuals. I mean, there was a cardinal by the name of Bernardin, Joseph Bernardin, who was believed he was a homosexual. There was good evidence to substantiate this. He was heavily involved in a lot of the bad changes in the Vatican. He supposedly was recruited by the Soviets. We know for a fact that homosexual spies were used by the Soviet Union and the Americans, the West, I should say, the Operation Gladio types, the US, UK, Holland, France, Germany, England, Italy, etc. I don't know this for a fact, but I would not be surprised, given the closeness of how the Vatican did work against communism, because it was a real threat to the church, that a lot of these types, these LGBT types, were involved in going to the priesthood, not because they believed, but to infiltrate it, to get to the other side, and sometimes from the other side into the priesthood. And they were using the church as a way to advance a political agenda rather than actually to help the faith. And that is how the problem got rooted. The Orthodox Church, no one talks about this, but there's a lot of problems within the Orthodox Church with the LGBT.
Oh, tell me about it.
That's a huge problem within the Eastern Orthodox Church. And the Eastern Orthodox Church, there was a priest, I wrote about him, who did a whole interview about this. He came out and condemned. He said there were hundreds of cases of sexual abuse that he knew about. He was trying to expose it. He was quickly shut down. Now, we know for a fact that not all priests in the Catholic Church were involved in this kind of behavior. Poland, for example, it's been proven that no more than 15%, 10%, no more than 15, were involved they were on the KGB payroll. These are Catholic priests. In the Russian Orthodox Church, it's come out that it's over 50%. It's even said that the last patriarch of the Orthodox Church, Alexis II, was a KGB agent himself, up to the highest levels of government. What does that say about the potential for abuse? Because it would normally be the same persons and the same patterns who would come in. It's very big. It's just something that no one talks about. It's better if the church has it out in the open. But I'm saying there's a lot more scandal here than what people can even realize. That's part of what I'm suspecting, what I can see. I would obviously need more evidence to substantiate that, but there's definitely a pattern of behavior borne out throughout history that substantiates something like this. And it's something that people should look into.
Well, and also, it's interesting that you mentioned all that about them trying to infiltrate the church and push their agenda. You started to talk about this earlier, but I think that's why I started talking about, the University of Notre Dame and all that. But you started to talk about the Gay Manifesto. Please go ahead and talk about that.
Oh, I'd love to. The Gay Manifesto, well, that's very interesting. That came out, I think, in 87 or 88. And Gay Manifesto said that homosexuality would be popularized within about 30 years' time. It would become standard within American society. It was right. And they talked about how, they were going to sodomize your sons, emblems of your feeble masculinity, how we were going to make it an acceptable and a great thing, and people would want to be gay. And we would stab people who would oppose them mercilessly in their puny bodies.
They've been doing it.
Where do you think we are today?